Yo, it's the DMV Computer Man. Look, I'm excited for a number of reasons. I remember when I first started in this business, I knew little to nothing about computer repair or anything. I actually was hired as a salesman. But what I did was I networked with different people in different departments, learned different things, bits and pieces from each person, and I created my own secret formula to success in this industry. But before all of that, I worked in the auto industry, right? I worked at Ford Motor Company selling cars. I worked there for 2 years, fresh out of college, right? And what I learned in those 2 years was that industry was an economic based industry, meaning that however the economy was, that's how well you'll be able to do. You can't really control your success in that industry if the economy is crashing, people aren't being able to get finance for cars, their credit is declining. So when I learned that, I was like, all right, I got to get out of this industry because my success is only based on how well the economy is doing and the president and how he's running the country. So that's when I left the car industry and I decided to jump into the photography industry. So I have a degree in TV and radio, so I decided the photography industry might be good for me. I got a little bit of knowledge as far as how the cameras work, the whole nine, right? So I worked for Lifetouch, traveled the country doing pictures at different places, and 3 years into that business, I worked there for 5 years, but 3 years into that business, I knew it was time for me to go. And the reason why is because technology was catching up to that business. And what I mean by that is, man, the cameras that were coming on the iPhones and the Galaxy phones, I had clients that would pay for pictures 3 years ago that 3 years later was like, nah, I just spent $1,000 on an iPhone. My phone can take just as good as pictures as your photographer and your camera. So that's when I realized that this business was success was only based upon lack of access, meaning lack of access of technology. Earlier in the game, when people couldn't have $1,000 camera and didn't know how to even use $1,000 camera, they would pay a photographer $100 or $200 to take photographs for them. But when the cell phones came out and they had more access to this technology and they could take good pictures with these cameras, they decided they weren't going to spend as much money on the photographer to take the pictures. They can take them just as good as on their phone. So that's when I decided I'd leave there, and that's when God placed me where I'm at now. So I ended up getting a job at an e-waste company. And e-waste is basically just electronic waste. It's where people get rid of their electronics. And a recycling company will be the e-waste company will come in, take those things, and they would be able to either refurbish those electronics or find use for them by scrapping out the precious metals and golds that are in the electronics, right? So when I first started my first day on the job, the first thing I noticed when I pull up to the door is that the owner is driving an exotic car. So I'm like, wow, you know, I ain't never worked for nobody and seen them driving exotic cars. Like, this is dope. I like this already. I'm gonna try to pick his brain, and that's what I did, y'all. I got in there and I started learning the whole business. I wanted to pick his brain since he was the owner that was actively running the e-waste company. I had the luxury of being able to sit under him, pick his brain, pick his manager's brains, pick anybody's brain who was working in that company, until I learned the formula of success, y'all, and that's what I'm gonna share with y'all in this video. Alright, so before I jump into the secret formula of success in this tech repair business and this e-waste business, right, I'm gonna let y'all know a little backstory about me and how I got my confidence and got a little more battery in my back to know that this was the right lane for me, right? So as a side hustle, I used to produce music for different artists and things like that, make beats. I was actually even rapping at some point in time, right? But it really didn't pay the bills. So it was more for the love of music. But one thing I knew, being in that industry and around people with the same drive and passion for music, is everybody wanted to have their own studio in their own facility or their own house, right? They didn't want to keep paying $40 an hour for studio time when they could just do it themselves. But guess what? None of them sat down and they had somebody show them what they needed or even show them how to use the equipment. So what ended up happening was they would go online, YouTube University, learn how to download free software. Y'all know how free software, where you end up when you start downloading that free software, right? So they would download them from the torrent sites like uTorrent, Pirate Bay, Napster, stuff like that. And they would end up getting a virus on their computer, get their computer infected with malware, spyware, and then the computer wouldn't even function for them. And then guess where they end up? right back at the studio paying $20 to $40 an hour, right? And a lot of them, they also had base model machines that couldn't even run the programs that they were trying to run. So they would also need hardware upgrades. So that's when I was like, you know what? I found me a lane, y'all. I'm gonna start targeting these guys first. You know what I'm saying? I can show them that I know something about computers. I know a little bit more than what they know. I can point them in the right direction, and they can see instant results when they start recording tonight or tomorrow. And that's exactly how it kicked off, y'all. So I just wanted to share that backstory with you.